Hi, I'm Sophia. I'm a 22-year-old renter. Did you know you have rights as a renter? Fair housing says you do, and so do I. I'm here to tell you about all the concepts of fair housing, what you're protected from, and your rights as a tenant as you begin to rent places here in Portage County. Let's get started with fair housing as a concept. It is a right, not a privilege. Under state and federal law, it is illegal for landlords and housing providers to discriminate against you in the sale or rent of housing. This includes if you're renting. So even if you are not buying a home right away, landlords cannot refuse rent to you based on a list of protected classes, which I'll get into in a minute. What is discrimination? You might be thinking. Discrimination happens when you're treated unfairly or differently because you fall into a group that is called a protected class. If you belong to this specific group and a landlord treats you differently or treats you unfairly, you now have grounds to sue, which I will also get into. Don't worry. Housing discrimination can involve statements or actions against you as an individual, or even statements or actions against groups of people. Now, these types of groups involve race, color, religion, sex, familial status, ancestry, disability, national origin, and military status. That is a non-exclusive group, meaning that there are even more things that could be involved, such as your age or source of income, depending on the city that you are renting in. If you rent, this means that landlords and other housing providers cannot refuse to rent to you just because of this list of factors. Landlords have to follow fair housing laws. This also includes property managers, insurance companies, so on and so forth. So landlords, sellers, realtors, all of these people that provide housing have to follow this law. This could include property managers. I am renting from a property manager now, or an individual landlord, like my brother does. We both are renting, but we are renting under different types of housing providers. Despite that, they both have to follow that same law. Doesn't matter what exactly you're renting, it matters that you are renting under the sense that you will not be discriminated against. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. I'm going to give some more examples of discrimination here, just to kind of give you exactly what it would look like if you're renting. So, if you're a tenant, you could face discrimination if a landlord does any of the following. Certain hypotheticals, like they set different rules for your use of the property in comparison to everyone else, if they charge you different fees, provide different services or facilities, if they refuse to make a reasonable change for you, or even if they give you a hard time if you bring up your fair housing rights. So, say you are an international student. You have fair housing rights as someone who is a different nationality than someone who is born in the US. If you are studying here, you still have that legal right to fair housing, and a landlord cannot deny rent to you in that sense. So if you are someone that declares, I have fair housing due to my nationality, if they were to give you a hard time, then you have grounds to sue. One of the protected classes I mentioned is disability. My roommate, Summer, has a disability. She is of the right to request either a reasonable accommodation or a reasonable modification. Now, a reasonable accommodation is a change to a rule, policy, or service. So this means you would remove the no pet policy rule in an apartment if you require an assistance animal like a service dog, allowing you to have a handicapped parking space close to your apartment, or even allowing you to have a live-in aid. You can request this in writing or by talking to your landlord. If you feel like this applies to you, there are resources online that can help you find ways to craft this statement. Now, accommodation is a rule, policy, or service. A modification is a change to the building or property itself. So examples of this would be putting in ramps so you can enter the building, making doors wider so a wheelchair can fit through it, or installing grab hooks in a shower or bath. You can ask for a reasonable modification verbally or in writing, just like a reasonable accommodation. You have to give the landlord a request of what you want and why it would help you. A big important part of this is that your landlord or housing provider can't ask you for detailed medical information or a diagnosis. They can ask for information about your request and why you would need it, but they don't need to know anything else beyond that. And also, as a catch to this, as a tenant, you would have to cover the cost of a reasonable modification unless your housing provider has federal funding. Your landlord usually can't force you to use special materials or a more expensive design, but they can ask for the work to be done well and with any permits that may be needed. So if you were to have a modification, you would need to have all of that process laid down yourself. They could also require you to remove that modification when you move out, if it's reasonable to remove it. If you suspect any type of discrimination against any of the protected classes that we discussed, you can report it to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development or the Ohio Civil Rights Commission, and you must file your charge within 1 year of when the suspected discrimination happened. Both of these organizations share information and they both investigate these types of claims. There are also local fair housing organizations that might be able to help you. Keywords to Google would be local nonprofit fair housing organizations and government agencies. And as I've been saying, you have the right to sue in state or federal court if you have an instance of housing discrimination against you. If you're thinking about it, there are nonprofits that offer free legal help in your area, and there is a link on the page ohiolegalhelp.org/topic/fair-housing-ohio. Now that we've talked about fair housing, let's talk about you as a tenant, your rights and your responsibilities as you begin to rent. So, having a relationship with your landlord as a tenant is very important. A tenant is someone who rents a property specifically. You're not buying, you're not putting down a mortgage, you're just renting. It's a lease. It's important to know your rights as a tenant because it helps you avoid scams, unfair treatment, discrimination like we talked about with fair housing. It helps to protect your security deposit, and you'll know what to do when repair or landlord issues arise, because they will. My apartment is a lot older, and we have dealt with multiple repairs for our plumbing since we moved in. I'd say we've had about 3 separate issues with plumbing because the pipes are older. If we knew our rights, it would help make this process move a lot smoother. Lease and rental agreement is a written binding contract between these two parties to establish the rules for living in an apartment or a house. A well-written lease will eliminate problems that could arise if both parties are abiding by the lease. So if everyone does what's written in the lease, then there are no problems. One big thing with a lease is it's important to know how it could be terminated. Again, this is a binding contract. Therefore, if you do not follow what's in there, you're getting kicked out. So make sure you have the rules known. Make sure you know when quiet hours are. Make sure you know what temperature it needs to be at if you're leaving for an extended period of time, how parking works, how trash removal works. Read the lease, or at least skim through it. Make sure you know the important parts, right? So, what are your rights as a tenant? The Ohio Bar has a whole list of things that are considered your rights. They all fall under the same types of things. So, example, you have the right to complain to your landlord for failing to perform any legal duties. You have the right to complain to a governmental agency if your landlord violates housing laws or regulations affecting health and safety. You have the right to join with other tenants, to bargain with your landlord about lease terms. You have a right of privacy, which the landlord must respect. Again, this is a right, not a privilege. The landlord may enter your apartment after reasonable notice, which is at least 24 hours for certain legitimate reasons, and without notice in certain emergency situations. And if you have notified your landlord in writing of problems at your unit of an insect or rodent infestation, the landlord should remedy the problems within a reasonable amount of time. For a broken furnace in mid-January, for example, a reasonable time is a couple of days. The landlord has up to 30 days to make less critical repairs. And if they do not do so, you have the right to get a court order for repairs to be made, obtain a court order reduction in rent, or terminate the lease. You also have the right to escrow your rent, meaning you deposit your rental payments with the clerk of the municipal or county court, depending on where you live, instead of paying your landlord. So you need to wait the full 30 days for your landlord to not fulfill this obligation. And if there is an emergency, you can start escrowing earlier. The way to make this process stop is the court will tell your landlord that you have started to deposit your rent there. And once they make the repairs, you can ask the court to release that money to the landlord. You cannot escrow your rent. If you are not current in rental payments, you got to pay it on time, or you received written notice when you moved in that the landlord owns 3 or fewer dwelling units. Quote here is, the tenant cannot change any of these legal duties, but the landlord may agree to assume responsibility for fulfilling any of them. As a tenant, these are some obligations that you should follow. You need to keep the premises safe and sanitary, dispose of all garbage in a safe and sanitary manner, keep plumbing fixtures in the unit as clean as their condition permits, operate all electrical and plumbing fixtures properly, so get surge protectors, make sure you have all of your plumbing stuff in place, comply with all state, local housing, health, and safety code standards. Please, because that's how you attract bugs, especially in older properties. Do not intentionally or negligently destroy, deface, damage, or remove any fixture, appliance, or other part of the premises, or allow your guests to do so. That's vandalism. That's a crime. Don't do that. Also, keep clean and use appropriately any appliances the landlord has provided, like your stove, microwave, fridge, freezer, and promptly tell your landlord if your appliances need repair. A lot of these complexes now have a portal in which you can put in a maintenance request, including the priority in which that request should be fulfilled. So, if you have a broken toilet, or you have a broken sink, or you have something that is an emergency, they can get to you quickly. Don't disturb or allow your guests to disturb your neighbors. Quiet hours are put in place for a reason. People have different floors. People are upstairs. People are downstairs. Making sure that you are aware of your surroundings in that sense, and know that these walls are thin. Especially in newer apartment complexes, walls and ceilings and floors are thin. You can hear more than you think. So just act with that precaution. After quiet hours are put into place, just kind of take it down a couple notches. Just remind yourself, hey, it's late at night. Someone might have an early class the next morning. I need to relax. Not allow controlled substances such as drugs to be present on the property. That is a crime. Don't do it. You are obligated to allow your landlord reasonable access, like I mentioned, 24 hours notice, to the premises to inspect, make repairs, or show the property to prospective buyers or renters. 24 hours of notice is not required in emergencies or for the landlord to deliver large parcels, but in most rental situations, you wouldn't have to worry about that. The tenant cannot change any of these legal duties, again, but the landlord may agree to assume responsibility for fulfilling any of them. So, these are in place no matter what. However, your landlord can be as flexible or not flexible as they choose. Some obligations to the landlord to keep in mind, and if they are not complying, to keep aware of, so that you can report it. A landlord must comply with the standards of all building, housing, health, and safety codes, so if you do not feel like something is up to code, report it. Make any repairs, doing whatever is reasonably necessary to keep the rental premises in a fit and habitable condition. Must keep all common areas in a safe and sanitary condition. Maintain in good working condition all electrical, plumbing, sanitary, heating, AC systems, all of that. Keep it all working. Provide and maintain trash receptacles if you own 4 more units. Supply running water, reasonable amounts of hot water, and heat at all times. Now, they may require the tenant to pay utility bills, but they must supply that running water. Not abuse your right to enter the property for legitimate reasons, because if this right is abused, the tenant's privacy has been invaded. With apartments, you will be given a security deposit when you sign your lease. As a tenant, you need to return the key to the landlord when you're done and give the landlord a forwarding mailing address where that security deposit can be mailed. Also, you are responsible for any damages caused by your intentional or negligent actions or those of your guests, but you are not responsible for any damages caused by ordinary usage or wear and tear. Those types of things obviously are going to happen and are to be expected. However, if you create a hole in the wall, you fix it. If you rip up the carpet, you fix it. If paint chips, you fix it. You get the point. After you move out, any remaining security deposit that your landlord holds can be applied to unpaid rent, utilities, late fees, or any damage that you have done to the apartment. The landlord must return that balance to you. Assuming that you give the landlord a new address, the landlord must, within 30 days, return to you all of the money remaining after lawful deductions, which the landlord must itemize for you. Keep that in mind. If the landlord does not return the money owed by that time, you can file a claim with the court. The court can order the landlord to pay the tenant twice the money owed, plus attorney's fees. So, Make sure that you are getting the proper amount of money back within 30 days and it's itemized. And if it's not, file a claim and get that back. Now, in these instances, you might wonder, do I need an attorney? We talked about how you have the right to sue based on discrimination. In these events of being a tenant and dealing with a tenant-landlord relationship, you are not necessarily going to need to apply or interpret the law a lot. But if you do, don't do it without help from an attorney who knows the facts. Like I mentioned, there are low-income tenants, there's free legal advice, and there are local programs in place that can help you if you are in this situation. You are not alone, and you are protected. At the end of the day, if you don't take anything else away from me, know that you are protected as a tenant. You have rights, and yes, you have obligations, but remember that you cannot be denied rent or treated differently based on the color of your skin, your sexual orientation, your nationality, whether or not you have a disability, and also know that you have rights in terms of health and safety and getting your money back. You might be young, this is your first time not living at home and outside of the dorms, but you still have rights, regardless of your age. So make sure that you read up on them. Come back to this video if you get it shared, and know that there are people out there that can help you in those instances. I hope this helps as I close the night in on my rented apartment. I hope you took away at least something that I said, and I hope you guys have a great day.